How about the parrot?
Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Richie from Boston. I am in the middle of the Moab Desert, and I just met a couple of young fellas. This one seems to be wearing a disguise, but he was just enlightening me on the savior, President Donald J. Trump. And do you have any thoughts on the president? Just, I mean, off the top of your head, don't you think? I mean, he's draining the swamp, isn't he?
No.
Hey, start with Stalin's quote. What was it?
Huh?
Give me control of Hollywood.
That's right.
Control of
I can
Hollywood,
control
and I
the
can
world.
control the world, right?
And look at that.
Was Lenin, Vladimir Lenin, that said that. And
how long before he threw his hat in the ring for run for president did he have his?
Look, here's the problem.
His show, The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Perfect setting.
Yep.
Everybody
Here's the
knows
problem
him.
you got
Everyone knows
here
he's got
is-
money.
So-called Americans are so uneducated on America and what the founding of America and the American dream and what the America was, because they haven't studied the founding fathers. And you got to ask yourself a question like, what's the difference between George Washington's America and George Bush's America, right? Because certainly there's a difference. There's a difference in that style of government. When we were given this country as a republic, right? The lady asked Ben Franklin, said, "What have you given us here?" And he says, "We've given you a republic, a constitutional republic, as long as you can keep it." And the form of a republic is the rule of law. And the rule of law is a contract. The contract is between the people and the states. And the product of the contract is the federal government. That's the product. And that contract specifically delegates power and specifically says what the government can do. It gives the government the authority to do those things in Article 1, Section 8.
Right.
That's all it can do. And that's what the contract says. And so if they do anything else outside of their guidelines, they're breaking the contract. And because the government is a product of the contract, they're not a party, they're a product. That means that they do what we tell them to do, specifically what was outlined in the Constitution, right? So, because they're not a party to the contract, they can't interpret it, they can't change it, they can't do any of those things. That's what George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and all the founding fathers had pictured, because they came from tyranny. They came from oppressive governments, governments with force, and governments with, heavy-handed oppression. That's what they set up. And this country changed during the Civil War, and Abraham Lincoln and what he did, and the whole Act of 1871, right? I mean, you're familiar with the Act of 1871, where they incorporated America. They changed it from these United States of America, where each state is sovereign, the property is owned by the states, and the people control their states, to the United States of America, which is incorporated. So now the federal government's starting to amass power and delete states' rights.
Well, they're on that. I mean, the biggest employer in the United States is the government, and nobody seems to have an issue with that. That's
Right.
all good.
When everything that the government does, there's no delegated power for them to do anything. There's only 18 specific delegated duties in Article 1, Section 8. That means the federal government can only do 18 things. Well, ask yourself a question. What are they doing? Every time they get together, you hear people, "Oh, I'm tired of this do-nothing Congress. I'm tired of this do." Well, that's what we want. We want a do-nothing Congress. We want a do-nothing executive. We want to do nothing, because we don't want these people to do anything, because every time they do something, it takes away your freedom,
right,
and your liberty,
the
and
government,
your property.
The government can't give you anything they already didn't take away, and people don't seem to have an issue with that.
Right? And so people got to get a grasp on this, say, this is George Washington's America. Well, what's George Bush's? Because now they've given us this hybrid form of collectivism and communism and fascism. You can call it whatever you want.
Right.
Fabian socialism, communism, national socialism, whatever, where they've turned everybody into a bunch of flag worshipers and a bunch of people that think that the government is omnipotent, and they boss you around and tell you what to do, right? This is not the ideology that the founding fathers had designed for us.
It's like the fences here, They spend more money and damage more land pounding bars in the ground, throwing up rebar, and spending the people's money to do this and make signs for what?
Control.
These trails have been here for
time immemorial.
Then we can get into this. The state of Utah. We're in the state of Utah, right?
Lands
The state of
defined.
Utah. I want to know, under the Constitution, it's illegal for the federal government to own land, right? It's called a territory.
Yeah, preach it, man.
Richie, what happens when a state applies for statehood and then it becomes a state, right? Does the federal government, is that land owned by the state, is that a territory anymore? No, it's not. It's not a territory. Therefore, the federal government cannot own the land. The federal government owns 73% of the state of Utah. And what's crazy is it's all the land where the resources are, and the oil and the coal bed methane and all of the where you can use that to generate money for the state. But instead, our state borrows over $7 billion annually from the federal government. Well, why don't we ask a real simple and logical question? Where does the federal government get money? Why is the federal government bribing states and loaning money to states? They don't have any money. They don't have anything that they don't take from someone. The only way they get money is by printing up a bunch of bonds and going and selling them. And the biggest buyer of our bonds is the Federal Reserve, a private bank. Why? This is, not only is it illegal, it's unconstitutional. The second thing is it's immoral.
Right.
Completely immoral, right? And this is simple questions that Americans should be asking themselves. We got this Marxist, communist, fascist hybrid, what we call America now, where everybody just, George Bush's America, where we just borrow money, inflate everything to the moon, we invade sovereign countries like it's our job, and kill innocent women and children for what?
It's amazing.
For what?
It's amazing.
What, the war on terror?
Right.
Like, who are we fighting? Like, this is all like, they've created this boogeyman, and then you're like, well, when does this stop? It stops when we go bankrupt, and we're bankrupt. We've been bankrupt.
I made a video last month, and I showed what they show as the national debt, and it was at 21 trillion.
That's only bond debt.
I made a video 30 days later, showed the exact same thing, and it was another trillion. $1 trillion is a goddamn ridiculous amount of money.
It's insane.
This
you know
thing
how much
is.
money's in circulation?
I have no clue, actually.
M1 money supply, money in circulation. $1.3 trillion. Think about that. That's all the money in circulation. That's how much money it is. It's crazy.
How does that work?
They can't even print that much money.
Because it's an enormous physical amount.
Unfunded liabilities in this country. You got 50 million people on welfare. You got unfunded liabilities in this country that go over $250 trillion.
That's exact. I just had an investor on.
Be repaid.
Right. It can't be.
Like if you even think that you could run your personal finances the same way the government does, and you don't think it's going to end badly, you're complete retard.
They will
complete
Bill Cooper you in a heartbeat.
Gotta vote for the guy that'll bounce back.
Yeah. So you look at what we're doing and you say, getting back to your Trump thing, right? And you say, now wait a minute. FDR and Woodrow Wilson, they were a product of the system. Our government has had control over our political system 100% since the 1850s, 1860s. Okay? They incorporated America. They brought all these things about. 1913 was a real bad year. If you don't know what went on, Federal Reserve, IRS, income tax.
Woodrow Wilson.
Then we get the League of Nations, which blended into the United Nations, and Council on Foreign Relations in 1919. This is what they've done.
Bear in mind, I'm in the middle of the desert, and that's the only place I can find fucking people that are awake. How sad is this country right now?
The Constitution's my wallet. It's sitting right in there in my bag. Okay, I read it and I study it.
Mine's in my glove box.
Document to me because I carry it around every day with me, and to understand that document is what keeps government out of your lunchbox. Like, you want to go out, and we're out here. We're gonna have lunch here in a little while. Okay, I got some Twinkies. I got some soda. We got some treats, right? Someone gets in my lunchbox and takes my Twinkies. Someone's gonna get a fat lip.
Right.
Bloody nose, right? You don't steal from people's lunchbox. That's what they're doing. They're stealing the shit out of your lunchbox. And
everyone's distracted.
People gotta say, I've had enough. I'm tired of it. I'm done. That's not what government is supposed to do.
See, I don't know about around here, but what you just said, sooner or later, people are going to get tired of it. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
People are just distracted,
and
they're.
The government they get you to believe you got a retirement program through them, and that they can feed you if you're hungry and don't have anything, and you're going to get taxes back sometime, and they keep you safe from terrorists. I mean, everyone's gonna, most people are gonna believe that anyway because they want that false sense of security. And it's a great plan, actually, if you're into taking people's lunch out of their lunch box,
Right,
stripping their liberties and their freedom. It's a great way to get the masses that are asleep to support that.
Right.
It's a great plan, really, if you think about it.
Well, you think
not
about
the right plan, but it's a great
our
plan.
Creator, God, right? We're created in the image of God.
Oh,
God put us here.
boy.
What did
The
God-
three-letter word.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did God intend for man to do to put us on this planet? He intended us for come down here and exercise free agency.
Right.
Exercise liberty and agency.
Absolutely.
And be good people. Follow his example. Live the gospel. Do unto others as you have done to you. Not screwing your neighbors and cheating everybody and padding your wallet, whatever. None of that. It's to be respectful of people's property and be respectful of people's rights and be respectful of other people. And for heaven's sakes, feed them, take care of them, do something for other people.
They seem to be passing laws state by state where it's illegal to feed people that are hungry.
Yeah.
And where I live, we just had a satanic, the headquarters of Satan go up right down the street. That was a year ago. I walked in there and videotaped the entire thing. And it's still there.
Luciferian Church?
No, it's the whatever, the one with, it's the big one. The Temple of Satan's headquarters is now in Salem, Massachusetts.
Do you know the
Salem, good place.
Yeah.
fastest growing religion in America is witchcraft, Satanism, Luciferianism.
No, and they're not hiding it anymore. It's coming out everywhere. Every song, every toy, everywhere.
If you can get these people to not believe in a God, then they feel they're not accountable to anything.
That's right.
Anybody.
That's right. 10 Commandments aren't that hard to live by.
Well, hey, the Ten Commandments is what the Constitution was based on.
Right.
Okay, we always do this litmus test that my buddy Mark came up with years ago. He says, look, it's called the 10-10-10. Okay? You want to know it? Study the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments is advice for us, human beings. Do this, do this, do this.
Golden rule.
Right? It's a golden rule. Right? We got the 10 Bill of Rights. Well, what are the 10 Bill of Rights? See, the Bill of Rights was ratified 2 years after the Constitution. 1789 on the Constitution, and 2 years later, they ratified the Bill of Rights because government was already starting to get out of control at that point. So now you got the Bill of Rights is 10 Bill of Rights. Why? What's it for? It's the 10 Commandments for the government. To tell the government, you can't do this. You can't take their free speech.
Right.
You can't tell them how to worship. You can't put soldiers in their home. You can't take their property without due process of law. You got to get under oath and affirmation to get a warrant to search. Shit, you drive down the road anywhere, you got freaking cops out there searching people's cars with dogs and who knows whatever else,
That's
right?
something I talk about a lot. I mean, I'm 50 years old. I say it all the time. When I was a kid, they were police
You look
officers.
36.
You know, now they're going to say Satanist, 3 6s. You know, there's a video on that already. Here we go.
Disney 666.
At any rate, when I was a kid, my grandfather was a cop. If there was a problem, you were in trouble, you were lost, you went to a police officer and he'd help you and it was all good.
Yeah.
Now they're law
See, that's
enforcement.
when they were public servants.
Right.
That's
well,
when they were
they're
police
law
officers,
enforcement
right?
now. You
But
know what I
now
mean?
They're policy enforcers. The police, like, we're policy and statute and code and pull you over for the,
People are afraid to go to a cop now
if you
because
go read-
there's a good chance you're going to end up, I'm in danger.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and it happens. It's
if you
crazy.
go find the old handbook that they used to give to juries whenever they would have jury trials, and in the handbook, it says right in there that the jury has to decide that in order for there to be a crime and in order for there to be punishment, then there's certain things that have to happen. Number one, you have to have a victim. Period. Where is the victim?
Right.
The second thing is you have to have property damage because there has to be restitution paid. Just like the gospel of Jesus Christ says, hey, if you do wrong, you got to make restitution. It's called repentance, right? And that means you got to fix the damage that you did regardless of what the cost or whatever. So now there has to be a victim, there has to be property damage, and there has to be an accuser. The government's not a party. The government's not a victim. The government's not the accuser. So all of these things that they go and do are based off statute or code. It's not a crime because you don't have those three things. And that's one way, a big way that they've altered our entire system. And when you get back to, Woodrow Wilson and FDR, they all said, nothing in politics happens by chance. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And he said that presidents aren't elected, presidents are selected. Okay? So you got to ask yourself this logical question. Is if our governments had full control over our political system since the 1860s, no question about it. There's no debate on it. If you debate about it, you're just ignorant.
Right.
So you got to do your homework, okay? So now, if they have full control over the system, and they use all their little societies and their Council on Foreign Relations and all their stuff to orchestrate all this,
Project
right?
for a New American Century.
On
and on and on.
PNAC, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
So you say, look, if you've got this system and they've had control and every single president and they're picked and they're plugged into place and they're puppets, but look at how they've changed the ideology of Americans, because Americans look to it like their ideology's already been changed because they believe in dictatorships and monarchies, and no, we don't believe in that. We don't believe that. Bullshit. You believe in that because you think whoever the president is matters.
Right.
Because you lend credence to it.
Right.
You bow down to it.
Absolutely.
You through your actions, you serve that master because that's what you think that he's doing. The president under the Constitution has no power. He has no power. He can't do anything. His only job is to veto every piece of illegal, unconstitutional legislation that comes on his desk.
And when's the last time we saw that? For real. Like, seriously,
Well, who started executive orders? If you write executive orders, it's illegal. You get tried. You should be hung. Well, Abraham Lincoln's the first guy to write executive orders. And first of all, that term executive, that's a term for a CEO.
Right.
So that's clearly that we live in a corporation, or we wouldn't be calling this guy that, right? He's the president of this corporation. Give me a break. You got to change your ideology. The president doesn't matter, but they change the way that we think. And they throw this president and everyone thinks, oh, this guy's going to do this, this guy's going to do. That's the problem, is you get a guy up there that can do this or do that or do that, and you say, oh, he's doing good because you think he's, legislating morality or legislating this, or you think it's something that's good. But what happens when he does something that's bad that you don't agree with, right? It's this democracy 51-49. It's not the way the rule of law in a republic set up. It's not the way this country was set up.
It amazes me how people come in. Like, Trump's going to come in. He's going to throw Hillary in jail. He's going to... Absolutely. None of those things happens, and it's actually the opposite, where he praises her afterwards, and then people just make excuses. They're just waiting for someone to fix everything for them, and we were the people that were supposed to do it.
They never relinquish power. They never give back liberty. They never give back freedom. They never give back property. They don't give back. They take and take and take and take. And they're taking on this end, and they're taking on this end, and they're taking on that end. And in the meantime, they're all spending money, bigger budgets, more debt. Because the elephant in the room is this. Show me a politician. Show me one politician that openly fights against the Federal Reserve banking system. Show me one. Because that's political suicide.
Right.
Okay? You openly fight against the Federal Reserve banking system. None of these people do that. And they all know. Shit, anyone can balance a checkbook and figure out how things work. Like, you know what they're doing. So don't tell me that all of a sudden we've got politicians who are good guys. These people are not good guys. They just are what you think your type of good guy. You're Republican or you're Democrat or whatever the hell you think. Both of these parties take power, they take freedom, they spend money, and they support the banking system, the Federal Reserve. And that's the main stem of corruption in the whole... Mayor Rothschild said this. I care not who makes the nation's laws. I only care who can control the issuance of the currency. Because if I can control the issuance of the currency, I can control all their lawmakers. Well, does it have to get any more difficult than that? It's simple. They don't openly fight against that. So don't think that out of nowhere, here comes this guy, and now all of a sudden we got a good guy as a president that's going to fix all our problems.
And everything's
Tell
fine.
me what problems he's fixing. America's not getting better. It's getting worse. We're not repealing the NDAA bill. We're not getting rid of the Patriot Act. We're not spending less money. We're not shrinking the size of government. We're not getting rid of the BLM and the EPA and all the other
Smith-Mundt Act has still been repealed, so it's all
nonsense.
good.
It's nonsense.
Okay, I'm running out of battery here, so let me ask you. You guys obviously know what's going on. You don't belong to the KKK, correct?
No.
None of that stuff. You're just Americans.
I'm an American.
And that's
I'm
it.
a Utahn, and I'm an American.
Which is why I find myself here. The last couple of years, I've ended up here an awful lot. How do you think this is going to end?
Badly.
How soon do you think?
Bankruptcy, soon. I believe you're going to have a major economic collapse before the year's out.
Because it's the only thing that makes sense. The way you go to that site, even though it doesn't show the derivatives and everything else, we know it's at like 250.
2.2 quadrillion globally. And American banks have 1.2
Mathematically impossible. There isn't enough things on the planet to pay that price back.
2008 housing crash, 558 billion, almost shut the whole entire system down. Okay, get this: college loan debt, 1.5 trillion, unsecured credit card debt and unsecured debt, 1.3 trillion, automobile loan debt, 1.3 trillion. The housing bubble's 3 times bigger than what it was in 2008. Okay, everybody's in debt. Everyone's enslaved to this.
Sorry, man.
558 billion about shut down the system in 2008. What do you think trillions and trillions of dollars are going to do to it now? This ends badly. It ends badly. And F the U.S. dollar even rise. March 26, the petro yuan went live. China has its own central bank.
Right.
Russia has been stacking more gold and silver for the last 10 years than any country on the planet. China's number 2. We don't have any. We got no gold and silver. We got nothing. Well, what do you think is going to happen?
And people don't have an issue with that.
The BRICS nations don't use the money.
Right.
Iran's out of OPEC. They're not using money as of last month.
There's a reason they
Saudi
sent
Arabia.
everything out. There's a reason that all of our lumber, all of our oil, everything's been sent out of the country. They raped it. It's over.
We're a bunch of punch-drunk consumers that don't even know what to do. Oh, what do you got there?
What's that?
10 miles square, it looks like.
Well, that's the size of the government, what it should be.
That is the
That's
radius
DC.
of the federal government's authority in the Constitution.
That's all the bigger it should be. 10.
10 miles square.
So
So
authority cannot.
That was really getting my ADD while I was trying to record him. I'm like, what's he doing? I can't see it. I can't see it.
So you look at this and say, these companies, let's pretend that China came here.
Okay.
And let's say, hey, we're going to make all these laws. Do we just bow down and obey them? China owns this. And they say, this is a law, this is a law. It's only applicable here. It's not applicable in Utah, Colorado. It's only applicable here. All of the legislation and all the so-called laws and statutes and everything in Washington, D.C., District of Criminals, it's right here. So they can pass all the laws you want. They're only valid if you consent to them. Right? 10 miles square. Well, go ahead, and everybody that wants to consent to that type of government, move your ass here. Right there.
It's open.
Go.
There's
there.
room now.
But those laws are not applicable in the states. They're not applicable where you live. Only if you bow down and only if you by consent.
We're surrounded by people that are giving in to the old adage that was, we were warned about this in a really old book of peace and safety. So they keep shooting this up or claiming it was done.
Sad. It's really, really sad because our way of life is getting ready to change. And it's going to become very, very difficult for people.
I've never met these guys before, and they're on the exact same page as far as a timeline.
The odds of meeting.
It's crazy.
A lot of it's
Moab.
common sense, though.
Yeah, but that's
Common
common sense.